The way software is developed, delivered, and maintained has changed. It's continuous and constantly moving forward. It demands measured progress. Are you passionate about DevOps? You know, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So let's go after it. Are you DevOps driven? Then let's go.
Hey, it's time again for another DevOps driving trip. You know, we've been talking about the fact that DevOps is all about speeding up the software delivery process by making it continuous. But how does quality assurance and testing keep up with that? Do we just try to automate everything? Do we try to use something like AI? Or is there more to it? Well, to answer this question, that takes me all the way to Chicago, Illinois to speak with my buddy Lee Barnes of Forte Group. Lee's helped several companies shift their mindset from a reactive quality to a built-in quality mindset, and that's where we want to get. So let's go talk to Lee. Lee, thanks for being on the program today. It's always good to have you. Today, we are talking about DevOps and how QA keeps up the pace in today's modern IT, and I know you've got some thoughts about that. I'd like for you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about your experience with DevOps.
Sure. So, Lee Barnes, Chief Quality Officer at Forte Group. Been involved in software quality and testing for, over 30 years now. Probably shouldn't admit that. Got pulled into the DevOps world really on accident, right? Working with a lot of companies for a long time as they moved from waterfall to Agile, and then started to see the benefits of more of a DevOps culture. We needed to evolve with them and help them understand how quality and testing can still be part of the way they deliver software without kind of being left on the cutting room floor.
Awesome. Well, you know, we live in an age right now where we have continuous integration and continuous deployment that is running so fast. It has been a struggle for people who have been in QA for a while to understand and keep pace with that and to become continuous as well. What's the biggest pitfall that you see with companies trying to move from the way they used to do things to the DevOps world regarding QA?
Sure. I think trying to fit the old model into the new. So just trying to compress things, make them faster, but not really thinking about what needs to change because of the way they are evolving and delivering software. So instead of this one big bottleneck at the end of your waterfall cycle or at the end of your sprint, now you've got a lot of smaller bottlenecks that are still slowing the process down.
So developers and quality assurance professionals need to be in step with each other. Now, the way I've heard this remedy is we're going to get rid of all quality assurance engineers and we're going to hire SDETs. So we're going to skill up a different set of people that have development skill sets, but they have the heart of a tester. And that comes straight from the Microsoft book that talks about what an SDET actually, how it came to be in Microsoft. That has not been my experience, seeing the companies that I've worked in. What's been your experience? Has that worked for us?
Similar experience. I've also heard it called T-shaped engineers.
Yes, T-shaped people.
And what I find very often is very skilled automation engineers. They could probably launch a rocket with a test automation tool, but they really don't understand what they're doing from a testing perspective and understanding the value. Are they automating valuable things? So you end up with this big, probably inflated framework and automated test suite that requires a lot of maintenance, probably has a lot of flakiness in it, and very, very little value.
Let me give you an example of what I've seen. I was teaching a class about performance automation, and we had SDETs in the class. And the SDETs were so interested when it came time to actually creating scripts out of code. And they could make the tool walk and talk. But when we came to, now let's look at the test results and analysis and figure out how to tell a great story, they weren't so much interested, and they were probably falling asleep or browsing somewhere else. So is it because they're still thinking so much like a developer? Do we keep the SDETs? Do we rehire back QA engineers, or how do we train SDETs to really have the heart and mind of a tester, that thinking process of a tester?
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of facets to that. One thing that I think contributes to this is what we measure, especially with automated testing. Everyone wants to focus on counting metrics. What percentage of my tests did I automate? How many tests have I automated? And the reality is they're taking the focus off the right question, which is, are those tests valuable? And then what's the impact of test automation? Otherwise, you're just automating for the sake of automation. If you look at what metrics you are impacting with test automation, something closer to the value you're delivering to your customers, like frequency of release, defect, phase containment, defect containment, those are the things that matter to your customers. Is it as easy to measure as the number of tests you automate? No, but it's much more impactful. So I think that really has kind of leads the test automation engineers down to, well, I just got to get a framework built and start automating test cases. There's some very skilled testers and valuable testers that I've run into. They don't want to be automation engineers because they're curious. They like doing the thought experiments and designing the processes to find real problems in software. And I would argue that they're finding much more impactful problems than the automated suites of hundreds and sometimes thousands of tests.
Yeah. So should we skill up QA engineers? You said they don't want to be automation experts, but in today's world, is that reality? I mean, we have to automate kind of as much as we can, not everything,
absolutely. I think we have to automate. I think those that are automating need to understand how to identify what's valuable to automate in the first place. And I live by the kind of the motto of, if the information that this test gives me, if I care about that, I should automate. If I don't care too much about it, why am I automating it, right? But again, if someone's holding that carrot in front of me in terms of what percentage of test cases I'm automating, I'm probably grabbing the easiest low-value test I can so I can hit my metric.
Right. What about metrics like that? If I'm an executive and I just come to them and say, I want to know, how much coverage are we getting on our app? With all this automation, are we actually reaching 100%, 90%? What are we getting out of that? And then how do I know that we've actually reduced the risk of deploying this application? Those reports are the things that tell me that. Are those the kind of metrics that you're looking for, even in the DevOps side? Or do you see those missing? Or are there other metrics we should be looking at?
No, I think from a testing perspective, coverage is important. I think the way we measure it needs to be a little bit different depending on what layer of abstraction we're at. If we're unit testing, it's pretty easy to talk about code coverage. As we get into functionality, it becomes a little bit tougher, and people tend to even get away from the application and, again, start to measure number of test cases. Well, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. So even if it's a looser mapping, I like to look at the tests that are mapped to areas of risk. Yeah, it's an extra step. You need to think about where the risk is in your application and map your tests there, but I think in the end, you get much more value out of your efforts.
Well, I think about the motivation and how people get paid. If I'm paid to automate, I'm going to automate as much as I can because I want to make money automating this. If I am paid to find defects, I'm going to find a lot of defects. But just because you've found a lot of defects is not necessarily a true metric of how good of a quality or what the quality level is of your app at any time. I mean, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
What statistics are great and metrics can be great if they're used for the right reasons, right? When they start being used to an advantage or to leverage something for some kind of a slanted, political reason or some other, that's when it's bad. How do we fix that?
I think, well, especially in the area of testing and test automation, there's just a lot of unrealistic expectations. And you and I go way back to kind of the beginning of the commercial test tool market. And I think that's where a lot of this started, actually. And hey, I've got this tool. Just open up your binder of manual test cases, press the record button, and we're done. And no, of course, that's not the message today. But there's a lot of other marketing features and about, hey, just use the tool, automate whatever test you have, don't worry about it, press play, and you're done. Or in this case, make it part of your continuous integration pipeline, and you're done. But the same problem's still there.
I see. All right, Lee, walk me through the typical sprint for what it should be in DevOps and maybe what goes wrong during that process that we can fix?
Sure. So maybe probably easier to start where I see it going wrong.
Okay.
And that's a lot of organizations doing very small iterations of waterfall, right? There's stories, developers pick up the stories, testers pick them up after the fact, probably after some code's been developed. So you've got those built-in bottlenecks. And in most organizations, the automators don't pick up the test till the next sprint. So we've got these built-in bottlenecks. But if we talked about, got the automation engineers, the SDETs, the QA analysts, and the developers in with the same meeting up front, there's a lot of information that can be changed. We could talk about test strategy. We can talk about automation strategy. The SDETs can inform the developers on some testability issues they may be listening to. And then we now start to remove those bottlenecks throughout the process, and we can move forward much more smoothly and achieve that the holy grail of continuous.
See, I thought that was already happening. I thought when they had these stand-up meetings, that's what they were all about, was this communication. And are you saying that's typically not happening because the mindset hasn't changed enough, or?
I don't think the mindset hasn't changed, or they're just ingrained in the process of, I have this story, and developers are working on it, and the testers are having their own stand-up, but probably talking about stuff they tested last sprint. Or defects that need to be retested.
So they're always still behind.
They always still seem to be behind. And DevOps is all about communication. If we've got a problem, let's all solve it, and part of continuous improvement, and get on with the next thing. But it's just following this structured process for the sake of process is the problem that I see. And everyone does it a little bit different, absolutely, but just lack of upfront communication. And everyone waiting for the person in front of them to finish the job.
Kind of goes back to when the first part of Agile, when you started hearing about a lot of companies, they moved over to, we're Agile now. But they really weren't Agile. And then they went through all the problems from that. And then they eventually got there. But saying you're going to do it and actually doing it and realizing it's not a 1 month, 6 month transformation. I mean, the first company that truly went Agile, I think it took them 3 years to actually get it completely implemented. And these were the people who wrote the manifesto, right? So it's not necessarily a quick fix, and I don't think DevOps is either. That's something you gradually move to, and the bigger the company, probably the longer it's going to take. And I think people need to understand that.
Absolutely. And that DevOps is a culture, right? It's not tools, it's not process.
Right.
At first, it's a culture. And you've got to achieve that culture if you have any hope, I think, to achieve the benefits promised by it.
So how do we speed up QA to meet, you've talked about how they get involved earlier, but just from reducing the friction of the pipeline, where do we take this? Can we use something like AI to help us build requirements, test case design, defects, and not that it's going to just do it all on its own. We're probably going to have to tweak it, but does that help us get there faster, or are there other solutions?
I think what we're seeing now is certainly AI is going to be a productivity play in all this, absolutely. A key tenet of DevOps is fast feedback, right? So it comes down to only test what you need to test, only automate what you need to automate, so you get that fast feedback. And I think there's a place certainly for AI in that, certainly in results analysis, starting to look at patterns and other things. Is it going to magically write our test cases? I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I think it can certainly help us add some efficiencies into what we already do.
Now, I understand you have a course that you teach around DevOps. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So more of a workshop, but continuous testing in DevOps. And it goes through kind of the whole process of what are the problems that we face today, why do we face them, and what can we do about it? And it's the goal of making sure that we're being smart about the way we test, the way we approach tests, from a communication perspective, from making sure that we understand the value of the test, and then moving on to automation, making sure that we are only automating what we need to. We're taking efficient approaches, and it talks about testing as appropriate through each stage of the pipeline, even out into production.
Awesome. And if you're interested in that, just scan that QR code that you're seeing on your screen. It'll take you to that website, or you can look at the URL. But I think they should check it out. Thanks again for being on the show today.
Oh, it's great to talk.
So it starts with a true mindset change to built-in quality, skilling up our people, smart automation, and understanding where the true value of testing and automation really comes from. And maybe a little AI thrown in there, right? Great conversation with Lee. I hope you'll check out his great resources online as well. And now it's time for me to head on down the road to do some more DevOps driving. I'm Scott Moore. Thanks for watching our show. I'll see you on the road.